If you lost your spouse 3 weeks ago or 30 years ago, whether you are a widow or a widower, here's something almost nobody tells you. Whatever you decided about Social Security survivor benefits, or whatever you're about to decide, is shaping a number that follows you for the rest of your life, and most people get at least one part of it wrong. In the next 20 minutes, I am going to walk you through 10 specific mistakes survivors make with Social Security, 3 bonus moves almost nobody talks about, and the exact steps that put this right starting this month. I am going to tell you plainly which of these only matter in the first few months after a death, and which ones are still costing you money every single month, no matter how long it has been. Stay until the end, because the last bonus move is the one that has quietly put thousands of dollars back into the pockets of people who had no idea it existed. Social Security survivor rules are some of the most misunderstood rules in the entire system, and they change just enough every year that what was true when you filed may not be true anymore. That is exactly what this channel breaks down. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now and turn on the bell. Let's get into it. Before I get into the 10 mistakes, I want to tell you about a man named Walter. Walter is 71 years old, lives outside of Spokane, Washington, and spent 34 years working as a freight dispatcher for a regional trucking company. His wife, Carol, was a school librarian for almost as long, and they were married for 38 years before she passed away from a heart condition when Walter was 61. In the weeks after the funeral, a neighbor drove Walter to the local Social Security office because he did not feel steady enough to drive himself. He sat across from a claims representative, gave her his marriage certificate and Carol's death certificate, and was told he could begin collecting survivor benefits based on Carol's record right away. The representative ran the numbers on her screen, told him the monthly amount, and Walter signed the paperwork that same afternoon because it felt like one less thing he had to think about during the worst year of his life. He has been collecting that exact survivor benefit with cost of living adjustments added on top each year for 10 straight years. He never thought about it again, and honestly, why would he? Then a few months ago, Walter was sitting in a coffee shop near his house when he overheard 2 men at the next table talking about something called a restricted application. One of them mentioned switching from a survivor benefit to his own retirement benefit once he turned 70, and the other one said something about delayed retirement credits that Walter had never heard a single word of in his life. He went home that same afternoon, created an online Social Security account for the first time, and pulled up his own earnings history. What he found stopped him cold. His own work record, built on 34 years of dispatching freight, would pay him several $100s more per month than the survivor benefit he had been collecting since he was 61 if he switched to it now at 71 with 10 years of delayed retirement credits sitting completely untouched. Nobody at that original appointment, not the representative, not the paperwork, not a single follow-up letter in 10 years, ever mentioned that switching was an option. Walter is not careless, and he is not unusual. He is one of millions of widowers who were never told the full picture, and we are going to come back to exactly what Walter found out and what he did next. To understand why Walter never heard about switching, you have to understand a rule that is unique to survivor benefits, one that almost nobody explains clearly, whether you are filing this month or you filed it 15 years ago. Unlike a regular retirement benefit, where your decision is mostly locked in once you file, survivor benefits operate on 2 separate tracks running at the same time. There is the benefit based on your own lifetime earnings, and there is the benefit based on what your spouse earned. Social Security will only pay you the higher of the two at any given moment. But here is the part that changes everything. Widows and widowers can file a restricted application to claim only one type of benefit and later switch to the other, an option that is unique to survivor benefits and unavailable for spousal benefits between 2 living people. That flexibility does not exist anywhere else in the system. It exists almost exclusively for survivors, and as far as the rules stand today, it does not come with an expiration date. With that foundation in place, let's go through the 10 mistakes, and I will tell you plainly as we go which ones are locked in the past and which ones are still live right now. Mistake number one is assuming the survivor benefit starts automatically. This one mostly matters in the first few months, so if it has been years, you can relax about this specific point, but it is worth knowing for anyone helping a friend or relative through it right now. Even if your spouse was already receiving benefits, or even if you were already receiving a spousal benefit while your spouse was alive, the survivor benefit itself is a separate application that needs to be requested and does not automatically convert. You have to call Social Security or visit an office and specifically ask for it. Mistake number two is claiming the survivor benefit at exactly 60 without comparing it first to your own retirement benefit. This one is still costing people money every single month, no matter how long ago it happened, and it sits at the center of Walter's story. Claiming survivor benefits at 60 instead of full retirement age permanently reduces the benefit by roughly 29% because survivor benefits do not earn delayed retirement credits past full retirement age the way a personal retirement benefit does. On a benefit that should have paid $3,200 a month, that decision can cost a survivor $912 every single month for the rest of their life. This is not a one-time loss. It compounds every month, every year, for decades. Mistake number three is the one most people, men and women alike, have genuinely never heard of. Not realizing you can claim one benefit now and switch to the other later. This is still live no matter how long it has been. You can start collecting a survivor benefit now and switch to your own retirement benefit later if you have not already claimed it. And even after claiming, surviving spouses often have the opportunity to alter their claiming strategy beyond the standard window with a mechanism to correct mistakes in many circumstances. If your own work record would eventually pay more once you factor in delayed retirement credits earned by waiting until 70, you may be leaving that larger amount completely untouched while collecting a smaller survivor benefit year after year, exactly the way Walter did for a full decade without anyone telling him. Mistake number four is calling the bank before calling Social Security after a death. This one only matters in the early days. Families have reported that calling the bank first to report a death causes the bank to place an immediate hold on the account pending confirmation from Social Security, which can create a delay loop that costs an extra week of access to funds. The correct order is to call Social Security first, get confirmation that the death has been reported, and then bring that confirmation to the bank. Mistake number five is spending any deposit that lands in the account after the date of death. This is another early days mistake, but it matters if you are dealing with this right now or helping someone who is. Social Security automatically recalls the payment for the month of death once they are notified, regardless of which day within that month the death occurred. And if a payment is made after the beneficiary's death because Social Security was not notified promptly, it must be returned. The payment for the month before death is usually still owed to a qualifying surviving spouse, just under a different request process, so it is not automatically lost money, but it is worth understanding the distinction before any of it gets spent on funeral costs or anything else. Mistake number six is missing the deadline on the $255 lump sum death payment. I want to be straightforward with you on this one rather than waste your time. This payment must be requested within 2 years of the date of death. If your loss happened more than 2 years ago and this was never claimed, that specific $255 is very likely gone, and there is no point chasing it. If your loss happened within the last 2 years and you never requested it, this is worth a phone call today. Mistake number seven is remarrying before age 60 without checking the rule first. And this one matters no matter when your original loss happened, because it applies the moment you remarry, whether that is next year or 20 years from now. Remarrying before age 60 can eliminate eligibility for survivor benefits based on the late spouse's record, but remarrying after turning 60 does not affect that eligibility at all. This is a rule that catches both men and women off guard, often because nobody mentions it until after the wedding has already happened, and by then there is nothing left to do but live with it. Mistake number 8 is ignoring the earnings test while still working and collecting survivor benefits before reaching full retirement age. This one is permanently relevant for anyone still working, regardless of how long ago their spouse passed. For 2026, Social Security withholds $1 in benefits for every $2 earned above $24,400 $480 if you are under full retirement age for the entire year, with the limit rising to $65,160 in the year you reach full retirement age. The good news that almost nobody explains clearly is that failing to plan for this can temporarily reduce a benefit, but withheld benefits are credited back once full retirement age is reached. It feels like a penalty in the moment, but it is closer to a temporary pause than a permanent loss. Mistake number 9 is not planning for taxes on survivor income, and this one applies every single year for as long as the benefit is being collected. Survivor benefits can be taxed depending on combined income, which includes half of the Social Security benefit plus other taxable income. And if combined income exceeds $25,000 for a single filer or $32,000 for a joint filer, up to 85% of the benefit may become taxable. Plenty of widows and widowers are surprised every single tax season by this, often for years in a row, simply because nobody walked them through it once at the very beginning. Mistake number 10, and this is the one that reframes everything else on this list, is taking the first answer from the Social Security office as the complete and final picture. The representatives at these offices are not lying to you, and they are not trying to shortchange you. They are giving you technically correct information based on the exact question you asked, but they are not financial planners, and they are not required to walk you through every strategic option available to you. A widow named Diane was told at 60 she could claim $1,767 a month in survivor benefits. At 62, she was told she could claim either $1,791 on her own record or $2,025 as a survivor, and was advised to wait until 66 for the full $2,706 survivor amount. Every single number she was given was accurate. What she was never told was that she could have claimed the survivor benefit at 62 and switched to her own retirement benefit at 70, which would have paid her $3,674 a month, a difference worth roughly $200,000 over her lifetime. The information was correct, the picture was incomplete. And it is not only incomplete advice that causes this. Sometimes it is an outright processing error. A woman named Linda, in her late 60s, living in a small town outside Des Moines, had been collecting a survivor benefit on her late husband's record for nearly 9 years when a routine government audit flagged her case. A federal inspector general review found that underpayments primarily affected widows and widowers whose spouses died before age 62 and survivors whose cases required manual processing, where calculation errors were more likely, and estimated that nearly 40% of surviving spouses reviewed may have been affected by similar errors during the period studied. Linda's husband had died at 58 before he ever filed for his own benefit, which put her case squarely in the manual processing category. When the correction was finally applied, her monthly benefit increased, and she received a retroactive payment covering years of underpayment. Linda did not cause that error. She simply trusted that the number on her statement was correct, the same way almost everyone does. I want to pause on this entire section because if you are listening to this and thinking I have been a widow or a widower for 15 years, surely that ship has sailed for me. It has not. The switch strategy does not come with an expiration date. The error correction process does not come with one either. Both are available the moment you ask, whether you ask this week or you ask in your 80s. The only items on this list with a hard deadline are the small handful tied directly to the first few months after a death. Everything else is still sitting there, waiting for a phone call. Now let me give you 3 bonus moves because these are the ones almost nobody talks about, and they apply with full force no matter how long ago your spouse passed away. Bonus move number 1 is checking whether the Social Security Fairness Act applies to your situation. This law, signed in January of 2025, eliminated 2 older rules called the Windfall Elimination Provision and the Government Pension Offset, both of which used to reduce or completely eliminate survivor benefits for people who also received a pension from a job that did not pay into Social Security, like many teachers, firefighters, and police officers. Before this law passed, Roughly 800,000 widows and widowers had their entire survivor benefit eliminated by these two rules. Not reduced, eliminated completely. The repeal applies based on your work history or your late spouse's work history, not based on when the death occurred, and it is retroactive to January of 2024. If you or your late spouse worked any public sector job during your career, this is worth a direct phone call because the average back payment under this law has been running well into the thousands of dollars, with some survivors owed over $20,000 in retroactive payments they have not yet received. Bonus move number 2 is checking your late spouse's earnings record for errors, because your survivor benefit is calculated using their lifetime earnings, not yours. If even a single year of their working history is missing or underreported in their Social Security record, your monthly survivor benefit is permanently smaller because of it, the same way Linda's was. You can request this record and file a correction the same way the deceased worker could have while they were alive, using Form SSA 7008, the Request for Correction of Earnings Record. Bonus move number 3 is right-sizing your tax withholding instead of either ignoring it or over-withholding out of fear. Plenty of survivors either get blindsided every April because they withheld nothing, or they have Social Security, withhold federal tax all year long just to be safe and end up loaning the government their own money interest-free until tax season. The fix is the same either way. Look at your real combined income using the thresholds I mentioned earlier, and adjust your withholding to match what you will actually owe, not a dollar more. So here's what to actually do, broken into 2 simple tracks. If your loss happened recently, within the past year or so, handle these 3 things first. Call Social Security before you call the bank, and get a confirmation number for the death report before doing anything else. Do not spend any deposit that lands in the account after the date of death until you have confirmed with Social Security whether it needs to be returned. And if it has been less than 2 years since the death, call and specifically ask about the $255 lump sum payment if it was never requested. Now here's the track that applies no matter how long it has been, whether it is 1 year or 30. Call Social Security and ask them directly to run a written comparison of both your own retirement benefit and your survivor benefit at every age from where you stand now through age 70. Ask specifically whether you are eligible to file a restricted application, and ask them to confirm in writing which benefit you are currently receiving and whether switching is available to you. Ask whether the Social Security Fairness Act entitles you to retroactive back pay based on either your own or your late spouse's public sector work history. Request a review of your late spouse's earnings record for any missing or incorrect years. And finally, log into your own Social Security account online and simply look at the number you are receiving today. If it does not match what a full comparison says you should be receiving, that gap is worth a phone call regardless of whether your spouse passed away last spring or during the first term of a President 3 administrations ago. Walter made that call after his coffee shop conversation. The representative ran the full comparison, confirmed his own retirement benefit with 10 years of delayed credits. Sitting on it would pay him several $100s more per month than the survivor benefit he had been collecting since 61 and switched him over. He cannot recover the difference from the past 10 years. That money is gone. And I want to be honest with you about that rather than promise something that is not true. But going forward, every single month from here on, Walter is being paid correctly. Linda's situation resolved differently because her mistake was not a missed strategy, but an outright processing error, and federal corrections of that kind do allow retroactive payment, which is why her case ended with both a higher ongoing benefit and a lump sum covering the years she was shortchanged. 2 different mistakes, 2 different outcomes, but the same lesson underneath both of them. The fix only happens if someone picks up the phone and asks the right question. If you take one sentence away from this entire video, take this one. The mistake doesn't expire, but waiting to fix it costs you every single month you wait. Whether you are a widow or a widower, whether your spouse passed 3 weeks ago or 30 years ago, the only way this gets corrected is a phone call you have to make yourself, because nobody at Social Security is going to call you first. Send this video to one person you know who has been a widow or a widower for any length of time, 1 week or 20 years, and has never once asked Social Security directly whether they are on the right benefit. That one share could be the conversation that puts several $100s a month back into their life from this point forward. That is what this channel is here to do. I will see you in the next one.